Hey everybody, I'm Katrina. Welcome to another episode of Kicking Back with Cat Podcast. And here I have with me Leroy Green, aka Big Game Leroy. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. I love seeing myself in these tiny little screen boxes. It's so fun.
Enjoying the gloomy New York weather. It's been pretty gloomy
Oh,
today.
oh yeah, totally. It's totally not hitting me in the seasonal depression, like it's so fun.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna get there soon, like another week or in daylight savings end and it gets normal time. I'm gonna be probably sad because it's gonna be darker sooner. But
Yeah, I'm more of a summer baby myself. That's just me though, probably.
So I was first introduced to you as a wrestler. I want to say 2 years ago at House of Glory. Two of my friends took me. They was like, "Let's go watch this indie show," and I didn't even realize House of Glory is literally 20 minutes away from where I live. So I was like, "Wait, there's
Oh,
a wrestler?" Yeah, I was like really like in crazy how I didn't realize that arena was like so close to where I live. So I was like, "Where was I all this time?" So that was the first time I got to see you, and I thought it was pretty cool that you kind of incorporated gaming with wrestling. So where did you get like that idea from? Like what was the moment for you? You're like, you know what? I'm gonna throw my love for video games in there.
it's kind of hard. I don't really like think about it like that because it's like I just think, oh, I think that people would kind of like me, and I think that people could relate to me using my interests and stuff like that. And if I'm really passionate about something, and they see that in the ring, and they see that in my promos and my interviews and stuff like that, they can gravitate towards that because it comes from a real place and a real love of
Yeah.
wrestling and video games. And also, I am definitely not the first video game wrestling guy. Like, I am definitely like the eighth, ninth, or 10th. I don't know. You got TJP, Kenny Omega,
Yeah.
ACH. Too long of a list. Xavier Woods. There's too many people. So after a while, I was just kind of like, I think like this video game stuff, people kind of, they see that I'm a nerdy kid and I come in graphic T-shirts all the time and stuff like that, and it's pretty easy to people to go, oh, that guy, yeah, he's really into video games. He's really into anime. Let's. I kind of like that about him. He's him. You know.
It was funny because I took my oldest daughter to a wrestling show for the first time in December last year. It was her first wrestling show, and you were wrestling, and she was like amazed that you was wrestling with the Switch, and she was like, "Mommy, he has a Switch. Like, is he not worried it's gonna break?" And so I was trying to explain to her, like, well, he does this normally. I'm sure now he knows, like to make sure his system. But she was like so amazed. She's like, "Oh my god, he's doing this with the Switch. Like, isn't it gonna break? Isn't it like okay? Like, don't mess up the Switch." And she was like so excited, and she's so chill. So it was actually really funny for me to see her get like so into it because she's like so like passive and chill and she doesn't really show too much emotion, but she was like so like excited to see somebody like with because she loves Nintendo Switch as well. So she was just so happy about that. So I thought like what you just said in regards to like relating to people. Never been to a wrestling show before, and she totally just gravitated to the fact that oh, he's playing video games while he's supposed to be wrestling. That's super dope. So I just want to thank you for that because like I wasn't sure how she was gonna take the wrestling, honestly.
No,
Because again, she's
that's
so
awesome.
like she's so chill, and I'm like, it's kind of hard to kind of see what she's interested in sometimes. So it was really nice to get like a really good reaction out of her, where she was like actually like into it, like zoned in, and she was just like, oh my god, the switch, the switch, the switch. So that's pretty cool. When would you say rather your love for wrestling started? Like, what was it for you where you was just like, I want to wrestle. That's my career. I want to do.
So my love for wrestling, I was watching it my whole life as a kid. I can't really remember my first memory. It's probably with The
Uh
Rock cutting a promo or something like that. And then I grew up on SmackDown on UPN, and I think that was like kind of when I was like, okay, I'm a hardcore fan. I'm watching every
Yeah.
Thursday and every Friday. And then once I got cable, when I was a bit older, I was watching Raw, SmackDown, ECW, everything. Like I was just watching
Yeah.
everything. And I think like a lot of wrestlers will be like, oh, when I was 5, like I knew I wanted to be a wrestler, but I was a nerdy kid, no surprise, growing up and stuff like that. So I was pretty scrawny, pretty short as well at the time, and I was kind of like, I probably can't be a wrestler. It's probably not going to go so well. And it wasn't until I was like a teenager that I started thinking to myself, man, maybe I really should. Like I have wrestling like most people who like
Uh-huh.
were into wrestling at a young age, and I still like it a lot. And as I've gotten older, I have a deeper appreciation for the art and the beauty of it, behind the scenes and all that stuff. So I was like,
Yeah.
let me at least try it, and then if I suck at it, then at least I can like go on with my life and do something else. But if I'm good, then like I don't know, like that could be like the dream. So
Yeah.
I started training when I was 17 years old, right after high school, and I was like, I sucked, but I loved it. I kept doing it, and now here we are, really.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I definitely feel like that's kind of what it was for me too. In regards, not wrestling, because I cannot. Like, I have so much respect for wrestlers because I'm like, I always tell people like, if I actually took a bump, I'm just gonna be there for a while, and y'all gonna have to wrestle around me because I'm not probably gonna move.
Oh man.
Yeah, I cannot take no. I'm not. I wouldn't even try to take a bump. So I have so much respect for any wrestler who can just take the bumps, and especially if they're like high flying or there's somebody who's like really, strong style wrestling, when you're like, ow, ouch, that kind of looks like it hurts. I have so much appreciation for you guys. I could never, but I was definitely the person who was watching like wrestling like probably 3 to 4 times a week. It was insane. Like, I just told my mother recently, I was like, Mom, I am so sorry. I probably got on your nerves. With
No, I'm doing that to my mom every day. I'm just like, oh man, I was the worst. I'd be like, oh my gosh, the pay-per-view. And this generation will never know. They have the network, they have streaming services, they have YouTube. So it's like I had to beg my mom almost every month for a I think it was $65 or $60 pay-per-view for the cable service. And I'm just like, please, like, let me get like the pay-per-view, please. And every month. And I swear I'd be like, oh, this is the last pay-per-view. This is the last pay-per-view. I don't want anymore. I don't want anymore. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I just need this one. I just need this one. John Cena's doing this. Rey Mysterio's doing that. I need this one. And she was probably really sick of me. Like very
Oh,
like
that was totally me. Oh my god, definitely. I was obsessed with the Hardy Boys, so I had to have like everything they had, or I had to like buy everything they were on. And then every time pay per view, I was like, so we could do extra chores, right? So we can get this pay per view. Like, I need to watch this. Like, this like a life and death situation. I need to watch this pay per view. I just like, I'm so glad my kids are not like that, because they're not like obsessive, but I was, and I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry. Like, you probably was like, stop, relax.
it's passion, man. It's passion. I love that stuff though. Like it's cool because I think now she kind of has the appreciation. Like, oh, I guess it kind of makes sense why he was crazy about that stuff as a kid. He wasn't just being a spoiled brat about it. He was actually like really passionate about these things
Yeah.
in a good way.
Definitely. So let's say if you didn't wrestle and that didn't go the way you wanted to go, is there any career that you're like, I can see myself doing this? Like, this can be another cool job to have.
It's kind of crazy. Like when I was a kid, like I think I wrote this in a few yearbooks, maybe like when I was in middle school or whatever. I
Hmm.
wanted to really write for like a gaming at the time when magazines were a thing. Now it's not really as much of a thing. I wanted to
Yeah.
write for Game Informer or Nintendo Power magazine and be
Oh,
like the
nice.
head editor. And to me, I thought it was the best thing because when I was a kid, I loved writing and I loved journalism to an extent. And I thought to myself, oh, I get paid to play video games, review it, and then also I get to go to E3. I got to go all these gaming conventions. I get to do all these interviews of cool head developers and producers and whatnot. And that sounds like the best job ever. Like I'm very big on like if you do what you love, you won't work a day in your life, and
That
you
is
have
true.
to find what you love. So yeah, you don't feel like it's work. Like everything's gonna be work. Everything is gonna be stressful and strenuous and take some effort to do well. But I'm like, yo, let me do the things I'm passionate about. And like when I was a kid, it was really very much video games and wrestling. And I just didn't think I could do wrestling until much later in the game.
That's so cool that you like to write, because that's my normal like job. It's like I write for other people, and then I write fiction stuff, and now I'm writing about wrestling for this sports website, which is like super cool, because I was like, oh my god, I get to do both things. So
Yeah,
I
I heard
definitely
about that.
agree.
Congrats.
Thank you. So I think that's super awesome that you actually want to do that, because I remember my mom used to get the magazines for me and my brothers growing up, so we look at the game and stuff. I was like, oh my god, this game's coming out this month. And why I wasn't like as obsessive as my brothers was with video games, I definitely did like play with them and get really competitive about like, I could beat all of you. Now, no, but back then I was very competitive. Like, I can still beat you now. Now I have no idea what half the stuff is. I gotta take me a little time to get used to gaming. Like, oh, all right, these buttons. Like, I feel like old now because I'm like, this wasn't a problem when I was younger. Like now I'm struggling a bit. So it's like super dope that you want to write too. I definitely think like even if you however you long you wrestle, I think you should try to like write too and get like that gaming writing in there somewhere.
No,
Definitely.
definitely. I think like I don't ever if there's any big goal, if I can ever get like, bigger than myself, and if there's ever any big goal in wrestling, like it doesn't just end with getting signed or just getting to a cool position or making a
Yeah.
ton of money. To me, it's just about like being able to use a platform and, do some cool stuff, like wrestling is an art to me, and like I just want to do my art and have it
Yeah.
inspire people and stuff. And if I can write and I could tell my story, or I could tell stories and I can have people inspire people in that way, then by all means, maybe down the line that'll be something that I'm doing. There's a million, like I feel like there's so many wrestlers who end up being successful authors and whatnot. Mick Foley,
Yeah.
Jericho, the Young Bucks now just released their book. I think it's like crazy, and these are like New York Times bestsellers. And to me, I'm like, oh, that's pretty inspiring. Like, man, maybe I gotta like get the old pencil and a notepad and start writing down some of these crazy wrestling stories.
Who would you say was like an idol of yours? Like somebody that either inspired you as a wrestler yourself or just like somebody you grew up with, like, this was my person. I had to watch this person on TV. I had to read their articles.
Easily it was Rey Mysterio. Like that was my guy as a kid. Like Rey Mysterio was everything to me because he was so small. And I guess it's a theme here is like, I relate to people who are like more so my size or who look like
Yeah.
me or who talk like me. And I was like, oh, Rey Mysterio, like this guy looks like me, he talks like me, he's short in stature like me. And I was like, I want this guy to win and always win. And like this guy is super cool and super awesome. He wears these awesome masks and this awesome gear, and like what he does in the ring, no one else can do. Like, I mean, he's still killing it at this age. He's
Yeah.
still killing it. He's still doing his thing, and it's super inspiring and super cool. And that was definitely my hero as a kid. Like, definitely, I had like a Rey Mysterio. I was Rey Mysterio once for Halloween. I've been trying to like find that old picture of me. I know there has to be one, like some Polaroid, something of me in a Rey Mysterio mask. I didn't have the full outfit. I had a Rey Mysterio mask and an off-brand Rey Mysterio T-shirt, and I was Rey Mysterio for Halloween.
I mean, I've actually never done wrestlers as Halloween. I probably should have, the amount of obsession I had over the years.
It's not too late. It's not too late.
I mean, I could. You're right. I could. I definitely could. But I was more so just like that person who was like buying everything they were on, like magazines. And like, I think one year my friend, because she knew I liked the Hardy Boys, went to like 7-Eleven for me. She got like this cup. They had these wrestling cups, and she got the cup only because she knew.
Yeah.
I think my other friend was jealous. I was like, no, my love of obsession is way worse than yours. So she did the right thing by bringing this to me.
I remember
I
those
love
cups.
her for that.
It's crazy because I remember those cups. Was that the one? I know the 7-Eleven cups. They did it a few times. I actually have a good story about that because I think they did it once in like 2011, over the summer of 2011. And there's like 7-Eleven that's like about a 25-minute walk from me at the time. And I really wanted those cups, and I was like, this is limited edition, they're gonna disappear forever. So, I took that walk as like a teenager, and I was like, oh man, I gotta go there, I gotta get the cup. So I took the 25-minute walk in the middle of summer. It was sweltering hot. You could cook an egg on the sidewalk kind of hot. And I finally make it to the 7-Eleven. I'm like 14, so I have like no money in my pocket. I have $5, which is just enough for that size of a Slurpee or whatever. And then, to my heartbreak, the only cup they had was the Miz cup. Oh man, and I feel like, I hope he doesn't see this ever, like, because that sounds so disrespectful. Like, that sounds so disrespectful. Like, I was heartbroken that it was just a Miz cup. I think it had Undertaker, Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Cena, and then I'm just like, the only one they have is the Miz. Like, really?
I mean, why the Miz is like great, I definitely would have been like, I would have wanted The Rock or something. I know me enough to be like, so can I have this cup instead? So I was very grateful that she got me the Hardy. I was like she's one of my best friends now, but I was just like, the fact that she thought about me because you knew how obsessed I was over them.
Yeah.
And I still have that cup. I was telling my kids about that. I was like, this is like from like 10th grade. And
wow. That's awesome.
Yes. So I was like, I still have the cup. in my kitchen cabinet, and I'm like, yeah, this is a really old cup. I literally had this since I was like 15. So
Wow, that's rad. Like that's something
definitely.
cool though. Like that's really cool. Like the passion to keep something and store it and whatever. I am 90% sure my family threw that cup away like many years ago, and it's just gone forever. So it's great that you got to keep yours.
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple of wrestling things that I do not have anymore, and I have no idea what happened to it. But I was like, the little things like that, like I would have been sad if they would have took my cup because my guys are on there. So, what would you say is like one of the best moments for your career so far? It's like wrestling.
Um, that's kind of tough. Like there's so many good ones. Like and I don't. I'm sorry. That sounds really like that sounded really cocky and arrogant. I'm sorry. I just meant like it's just the one that always comes to mind is the match I had with Loki at House of Glory. That was like a moment, and I went into that match, and people I need people to understand. I went into that match thinking I was going to like die and get seriously hurt. Like I went into that match preparing myself like it's gonna hurt. I'm gonna be in a lot of pain. He's gonna be very low key about about how he goes about this match with me. And I'm a video game playing guy, and I'm pretty sure he's not gonna like any of that. So for that to have that moment of us playing video games together in the ring, and for the crowd to also like it's just so much. Like my favorite moment of that whole night was like I kind of understand where I'm at in my career. Like I'm like this plucky, video gamey underdog, and I understand that. So I'm very aware that like when there are moments where the fans are just gonna be like, Leroy, we like you, but you're gonna get beat up. You're gonna get hurt real bad. They're like, we like you, but we roll with that guy because we know he gonna mess you up. And I'm just kind of like, well, I get it, guys. Like I probably root for that guy too. But my favorite thing was like Loki comes out and they're just like, fuck him up, Leroy, fuck him up, and it's just like all that, and I'm like, okay, I expect this, I really do. But then like they're on the other end, they're chanting, "Catch 'em all, Leroy," because I was playing Pokemon, and I guess the fans could see, and they were going, "Catch 'em all, Leroy, catch 'em all." So then one half of the crowd is chanting for Loki, the other half is chanting for me, and there was a moment where it was 50-50, and I was just like, wow, we haven't even like touched yet. He's just grilled me, and the fans are behind me, and they're not letting this superstar. Like he's very much a superstar to me. He's the baddest guy in wrestling in a real life tough guy way.
Yeah.
And the guy has done it all. He's been at all the companies. He's done it all. He is well traveled. He is well respected in our industry, and rightfully so. And like they were, for whatever reason, in that crowd in Amazura, they put me on the same level as Loki, and I will never forget that, and I will never like not appreciate that. And I think that's really, really cool to be able to say like, oh, I held my, in terms of the crowd at least, I held my own with this legend in the ring. Like that's really cool to me.
Yeah, I actually really like Loki too. I thought first time I saw was also House of Glory. So, and another that's my daughter happened to like him too. She's like, oh, he looks like Hitman. She kept saying that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
She's like, oh my god, that's so cool. And it was just really nice to kind of see her get like again so like animated about certain things. And she's always so like, I can't really tell what you thinking or what you feeling about certain things. Like I was annoying as a kid. Like I was like, oh, I like this person. Now I'm gonna annoy you and everybody else around you about how much I like this person. She's so like,
oh man,
she's so
that's
chill.
great.
So it's like cool. It was cool to see that she really like responded well to Loki, and then you, and I believe it was the Lucha Bros. So she really liked that as well. She was just like, oh my god, they're so cool. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I felt with my son Lucha Bros as well. Like, okay, they're actually really freaking dope. So like, it was really really cool that you mentioned him because I think he's like a phenomenal wrestler, and I do like his like kind of badass, like just ready to kick everybody. That you're just like, oh, all right, do what you need to do, bro.
No, definitely. It was a lot of fun. He can play with me anytime, man. I mean, yeah, maybe next time though he might not want to play. Maybe he'll just want to scrap, and like it won't go so well for me.
Would you say there's like things that's hard about wrestling that you're like, I don't like it too much, or?
Oh, definitely. I mean, not to sound like it's very difficult on so many levels, and I feel like everybody thinks the physical, and the physical very much is very like painful and very like grueling because like you wrestle and your body's hurting. Like it doesn't go away after that night. Like you're hurting for like the rest of the week. And if you're
Mhm.
injured, like for a while, and like you could be sore for months, but to me, like I can push through the physical pain. Like that to me is not really a big deal. But I think the mental
Yeah.
aspects, the mental toll of am I doing enough in wrestling? Am I putting myself in the best position to succeed? Am I staying busy? Am I creating enough content for people to engage with me? Because in this day and age, where wrestlers, independent wrestlers at least, are modern day content creators. If you don't have a
Yeah.
social media and you don't interact with your fans or supporters, your believers and stuff like that, then you're not doing your job well. You're not going to get
Yeah.
noticed. You're not going to get any buzz about yourself. So it's very much a very difficult in that sense. Me, I'm naturally introverted as well. So like it was a climb to get good at social media and to really figure out cool ways to interact with people. And eventually I learned, which I think is like the secret to everything, is I just started being myself and I stopped trying to be someone else.
Yeah.
Like I stopped trying to be something, to be what I thought people would like, and I just kind of was just myself. And I was just like, yeah, if people like me or don't like me, then whatever. I mean, I'm not going to be for everybody. Not everybody's going to like me. They're going to go, oh, this guy plays video games in a ring. Like, what a loser. What a goof. What a joke. He's what's wrong with wrestling or something like that. I don't know. But that's like, those are people who are already not going to like me. There's like no universe where I'm going to make them like me. But that's
Yeah.
okay, because there's a lot of people that do. And there's a lot of people who I respect who have told me, hey, no, you're doing things the right way. There's going to be people who don't like you, just like the same way, like there's certain people who don't like certain TV shows or certain types of music or whatever. And that's okay. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just all an opinion. This is an art, this is entertainment. This is what we do. And it's not for everybody. So I think that kind of stuff and learning those lessons was very much the most difficult part of wrestling for me, having to push through negativity per se and having to kind of figure out a way to stay positive and to kind of keep grinding. And even if you know that like you're not doing anything wrong, and just knowing, okay, my time will come. My time will come.
I actually really love that you said the regards to being yourself, because I do know, not wrestlers in general, just people in general have this thing where they kind of have to feel like they have to portray something that they might not be, and it's just, I feel like that's such a emotionally draining and like task kind of thing to do all the time. Like just I have to, as a writer, I tell people, like, I have another podcast I do with my writing friend. And I tell people all the time, I'm just like, I had to learn to, one, get tough skin, but also, like, people are not going to like everything that I say or everything that I write. And that's perfectly fine, because those for me will find me. And so I love that you said that, because I think that's like an important thing just in general. People, even like teenagers coming up and they're like, oh my God, social media, I'm going to do this video, post this picture with this filter, or we got to play this game because everybody's playing, or whatever the case may be. I just feel like that's something that's so important that I can't, well, not that I was like really with like everybody else, but just, it's okay to be who you are, whatever it is you
No,
like.
definitely.
Like, as long as
Yeah.
nobody's being hurt, like, as long as you're not hurting anybody, like, and nobody's being harmed in any way, do what you need to do and just be happy. I feel like it would just be so much better if people did that, because it took me a little bit to kind of realize, like, I'm very sarcastic and I like to laugh at things. So I'll like post a meme and I'm like, okay, this is really funny to me. You might not agree with me, but it's funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna post it because I find it funny and I do like to laugh. I do spend a lot of my time laughing because the world sucks sometimes. You need to laugh. So
No,
I
definitely,
love
definitely.
that you said that, because that's like so important just in general, that people should
Yeah.
be happy with who they are as people and just embrace that. And the right people will come along. It's always the right people will see, like, oh, this is pretty cool. This guy is pretty dope. This girl's pretty dope. So I love that you said that.
No, thank you. I mean, to me, wrestling and the social media, to me at least, everybody's different, and some
Yeah.
people are just wrestlers, and then that's just it to them. The social
Mhm.
media is a means to be successful in wrestling. For me, I'm like, well, I have an opportunity to touch people in a positive way, and like, if the more my following grows, the more I can spread some positivity, the more I can help people through tough times. And like, there are people who reach out to me and you say, hey, like, you helped get me through something, or hey, you kind of really helped get me through some tough times through your art, through your wrestling, through your promos, through my corny little social media posts. People will go, like, that stuff really brings some positivity to my day, and thank you for that. And to me, that's when I'm just like, I'm like, that's bigger than wrestling. Like, that's like something really positive, like a change, a positive force you're making in someone's life, and that to me is bigger than anything I can do in the ring. Like, that's the stuff that's really cool to me. And like, if I can ever quote unquote make it, that's the stuff that I kind of want to continue to do, you know, whether I could just do it for like people who follow me, or whether I can provide that for my community or whatever, you know, I like, that's the kind of stuff that I'm really interested in, like long term.
Definitely, that's like good aspirations. Like I'm so glad. Like it's just really nice when I hear people say things like that. I'm like, yes, thank you. We're on the same level with that, with regards to just like not having to like fake it. Rather, just I feel like genuineness will bring genuine people to you. So love that you said that. Out of all the like wrestling promotions, I know you did AEW already, which I thought was like super amazing. I was like amazed, but I was like, yes,
Thank you, thank you.
And I'm like, yay! It's so awesome. But people get to see what I was seeing in House of Glory. So I mean, I know House of Glory is not the only show, but for me, that was my very first indie experience. So every time I see somebody that I've seen in House of Glory, I just get like super excited because I'm like, yes, everybody else get to see what I was seeing in House of Glory. They get to see it on like a different scale.
No,
So,
definitely, yeah.
is there like any promotion you could like it's a goal promotion for you? Like I would love to go there and wrestle somebody or wrestle whoever it may be. Do you have like a promotion that you just was like gonna check off for your career?
It's tough because like it's interesting because like I got into independent wrestling a little late. So I've already kind of gotten to check off a lot of really cool things to me. Like one of like the first promotions that I saw like were promotions like CZW, Ring of Honor, Dragon Gate, Evolve, and those were the companies that I saw and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." Like, you know, Chikara was another one, and I was like, these are promotions that I want to wrestle there because the people that I like, El Generico, Kevin Steen, Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole, that's where they're wrestling. That's where they're making their name. I need to be and follow their path. And I got to check off a good amount of them. Like I wrestled, I'm like a regular at CZW kind of thing. You know, I got to wrestle and be a regular while they were running at Evolve, and like that stuff is really like really cool to me. And like so it's like I'm at this point now where like everything becomes like I've checked off the emotional, the sentimental goals. So now everything's become more of like a goal in a business sense of like, okay, I need to get there because business and traveling or whatever.
Yeah.
But the only one that's left is the one I forgot to mention, but I will mention it now. PWG. That will always be like I just loved watching those PWG highlights. I couldn't afford the tapes at the time, so all I saw were the highlights and the clips, and I loved them. And I was like, this is the best wrestling in the freaking world, and I want to be a part of this at some point. And I think things are a little different with PWG now. It's not the same type of PWG. It's not Reseda anymore. But I still would love to like just say I wrestled at Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. I would still love to say I wrestled there. It would be cool to be in Ring of Honor. I mean, I this is where I start getting a little dreamy kind of stuff like that. But Ring of Honor would be another one to say that was cool, just because there's a lot of people I'd love to wrestle there. Guys like Jay Lethal, guys like Jonathan Gresham. Some of the best wrestlers in the world are there. So to me, I'm like, yeah. Dalton Castle's another person I'd love to wrestle there. So I mean, I don't know. It's just like I don't know because I'm a very I play video games in the ring, and Ring of Honor is supposed to be about the best technical wrestling in the ring, and I like to think I can wrestle pretty well. I just happen to do it with a video game in my hands, so I don't know how they would take to me, but that's still a goal. I think that would be really cool to wrestle there. There's companies like GCW, Beyond, Limitless that are also companies that would be cool to wrestle in. There's like those are locker rooms of guys that I've wrestled with and guys that I've met and been on the road with in some cases, and guys that I'm just like, yeah, like please, stuff like that. Honestly, those are like the main goals for me right now. And besides that, it's just internationally. Like I went to Canada for the first time in March, and that was really, really awesome. That was really sweet. And literally, I came back, and then I came back to New York, and then the next week is when they shut down the schools, and that's when everything was shut down. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, And I was supposed to go back up to Canada 2 more times in April, and obviously that didn't happen, and that was a real bummer. But I'm hopeful that maybe next year I can return to Canada, get some maple syrup pancakes and really enjoy the whole thing. And I would love to travel to Mexico to wrestle. You know, like that would just be super, super awesome. Obviously, overseas, the UK, Japan. I mean, I'm just gonna say I want to travel the world. You know, like that was always the
Yeah.
start to me as a kid. Is like, oh, I get to do what I love, travel the world, make new friends. I sound so corny, but like make new friends, meet new
It's not.
people, eat new food because I'm a big foodie and like I love going out to eat and I love discovering new food spots. So like stuff like that. And I feel like being like just traveling the world, doing what you love, doing it with your friends, doing it with people you care about, like you can't beat that.
Yeah, that was literally what happened. I went to a show in March and I'm like, oh, it was a great show. And I'm like, oh, it's getting late. I gotta go home. I'll be at a show next week. And then quarantine happened. I was like, oh, okay, well, all right. You just sure like no more shows for you for a while. So I was kind of upset because I was like, I was thinking I was going to another show the very following week. I got time to like hang out with people. And I'm like, well, if I knew, I probably would have hung out a little longer. I was just like, it's getting late now, let me get home. So definitely
Yeah.
I was very hurt. I was like, wrestling, I used to try to at least do once a month where I'll go to a wrestling show just to be with like people who understood the love for wrestling. Like I love to watch it. And then I was like, oh, 2020 was like, no, you're just gonna watch some stuff on TV and like watch the network or whatever. Like
No,
you should
definitely,
see like an indie show. I was so hurt with about that because I'm just like, bro, this is the one thing that I would do for myself as like my time. Like, let me just go to a wrestling show and just enjoy the people and watching people do like craziness that I can never do. So I definitely like understand that whole like, God damn it.
No, it sucked. Like I got really depressed earlier in quarantine, like without getting too woe is me and sappy about it. I was like, man, I had all these things lined up and I was gonna try to go to Florida for Mania weekend. That would have been really good networking. Maybe I would have wrestled and all this and that. And I wanted to travel and now everything is shut down. All these companies are closing and shutting down or restructuring or whatever, I had a pretty solid gig at Evolve, and obviously Evolve isn't really a thing, although you can catch it on the award-winning WWE Network, and maybe eventually you'll see me there too. But after a while, it was kind of just like, okay, well, this year is what it is, but what can I do safely? What can I do? What can I do? What promotions can I work for? What kind of
Yeah.
bookings can I manifest? A lot of companies are doing tapings. A lot of companies are doing these really cool projects and stuff like that. Like, I'm really happy with what I've been doing with Pizza Party Wrestling. It was a lot of fun. It was just released Bout for Clout 99. From 1999, an old tape of from 1999 that we totally didn't tape a few months ago. But no, I've been having so much fun with a lot of these quote unquote secret projects or whatever, like with closed set tapings and stuff. It sucks not to have fans. It really, really does. But it has just been so fun to have these like projects and these things to do. And I've been lucky enough to be with a nice group of guys and girls and been around really cool people most of the time. And got closer with a lot of new people, which I probably wouldn't have happened if not for this pandemic. Like a lot of people are on Twitter and social media way more often, interacting with each other, and like I got really cool with a lot of people because of wrestling Twitter being what it is in the pandemic, and I think that's really powerful, man. Like I think like it's really, really, really cool, and I like to think of this as like trying to take a really hard negative and turning it into a blessing.
Yeah, I definitely would agree that if quarantine didn't happen, I wouldn't even be doing like this because or some people like I hate it used to being in front of cameras. Like I would not be in a camera. Like I'll do behind the scene work. I don't need to be on camera at all. And then I wound up being in a group with a bunch of women who are wrestling fans. And then one of the women was like, "Oh, come do this," and I'm like, "Okay." And the next minute, I'm like on camera. So quarantine definitely kind of just got me more into doing things I wouldn't have done before. So I guess for that part, like it's been a bit of a rough year for me, but also I got things that I'm like, this is pretty cool that this happened. Like I got to do this and I've gotten to interview some really like awesome people and I'm just like, yay, like I'm so glad you want to talk to me. It's like really important. So like, yay, thank you for wanting to talk to me. So I think I definitely understand that whole just like it kind of sucks, but also you kind of 2020 kind of forced things that worked out, like just put another situation and open a different door. So definitely,
definitely.
What I know a lot of people have like their thoughts about wrestling currently. A lot of people are like, oh my god, it sucks and it's fake. And I hate that just because, again, can you do that? Probably not. So there's always a verse when people say stuff like that. It's like, well, can you do that in the ring without like dying? Probably not. So like, give people the credit that they deserve. So what are your thoughts on like current state of wrestling? Like, now we do have a lot of different options out there, which I love wrestling, so I pretty much watch almost everything. But what are your thoughts about as far as like the wrestlers in general, about the fans, about the fact that we do have so many promotions? Growing up, it was like WWE, WCW, and then that was gone, ECW, and then that was gone. It was just WWE for a really long period.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, wow, that was a lot. I gotta try to. It's like my thoughts. It's like I think wrestling is. It's weird because I think that the in ring aspect of it is probably in terms of athleticism and whatnot, is probably as good as it's ever been. Because like now wrestlers can do way more. There's way more we do in the ring. There's way more. Everything is a lot more complicated. Everything is a lot more elaborate with everything that's done in the ring. I'm a fan of the products that are on TV. I don't think they're bad. I think that there's questionable decisions that are made, but I don't think it's ever bad. Like I don't ever go into a pay-per-view or an event thinking like, oh man, this is gonna suck because this person is making it this way or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, sure, maybe I don't agree with that decision happening, but the in-ring stuff I thought was dope. Or the promo and the video package leading into this big match I thought was cool. And like I don't know, I've always been a very like easy to please viewer. I don't know. It's like I enjoy wrestling. Like it has to be really bad or it has to be really boring for me to go, oh, I don't like that. Like I don't look for reasons to not like something or to not like someone. I understand a lot of people consume media differently, and it's the same with wrestling. Like some people are like, no, you gotta wow me. Like I'm sitting here, on my hands, and you gotta really like show me something before I like you, and that's okay. Like as a wrestler, as a performer myself, I enjoy getting those people to react to me. Like I enjoy that challenge. But I'm not that kind of person. I enjoy wrestling and I enjoy the state of wrestling. I think in this pandemic, especially, like we've seen wrestlers step up in such a way, like with social media, and then even like in WWE and AEW with no fans, it becomes very much okay. What are you doing in front of this camera? How are you? What are you showing people in this camera? Because there's no fans to go off of. There's no fans to feed off of. And what are you showing? And I think it's really cool what people have been able to do and how people have stepped up, and not just on the TV level, on the internet. Like I think like on Twitter, like we've seen some of the top guys in the indies just make even more waves. Like a guy right now I can think of is MV Young. Like I had heard of MV Young like a few times. I bumped into him in a few locker rooms and stuff, but he blew up in this pandemic, and he was cutting promos like almost every day. He was posting stuff almost every hour, really funny, witty stuff. He was going to the protests. He was making it very known what he was about, and that stuff caught on, and that's the stuff that people gravitate towards because people were just like, yeah, like this is cool. Like this is it. People are on their phones all day. People who are still quarantining, people who are still not really going out and stuff. This is it for them, and you have to like give people something to kind of take their mind off things. You have to entertain people, and I think that wrestling has been doing a really good job of that lately. I'm always a glass half full kind of guy. Obviously, I think that there's some negatives in wrestling that need to be ironed out. I don't think wrestling is like perfect, and I always think that things can always improve. But that to me is the fun. It's not always about the destination; it's about the journey and enjoying the journey, enjoying the process. Wrestling's gonna get better. I think wrestling on the independent level is gonna get cleaned up a little bit. I know there was a whole movement going on with the speaking out and stuff like that, and I think that like that's gonna be tremendous. Because I think that like this is the stuff that we've like a lot of us wrestlers have kind of seen behind the scenes and felt like we had no way to influence that for the better. Like there was nothing we can do. And, not even just in that element, but just in the elements of making independent wrestling more like just better, like just making it run better, making it look better from the outside or the inside. And I'm confident that like wrestling is going to be better because of all this. There's companies that shut down that probably needed to shut down. There's wrestlers that are going away that probably needed to go away, And I think that like there's going to be a new people leading the charge, both in terms of running companies and also just young talent, young wrestlers and young talent stepping up to take the spots of these people who went away. Like I am a big young talent, young talent guy because the age old question in wrestling and on the indies, WWE, AEW, we have no new talent. We have to lean on the
Yeah.
guys who have been. And I'm just like, no, there is young talent everywhere. You're just not using them, and you just don't see them, or you don't see their potential. And I'm like, no, like there's so much young talent everywhere, and that's the thing I do enjoy about AEW and AEW Dark is I feel like they're always, spotlighting young talent all the time or talent on the independents and stuff like that. And if there's buzz, they roll with it. They don't ignore it. They don't go, oh, well, I still want to go with this guy. No, they go with it. And I think that at least in the case of NXT as well, I think like WWE is getting better at that. And I think wrestling is getting better at that. I look at GCW and there's so many young guys that they used at the collective a few weeks ago. And I'm like, yeah, those are a lot of my friends and peers. And I'm really happy for that. And I really think that stuff is really cool.
Yeah, I actually just found out about MB Young at the show. I was able to go to Violence and Suffering, and I was able
Oh,
to go.
nice.
And I was like, okay, he's actually really freaking cool. And then I just had to like just kind of go through social media. I was like, okay, so how can I join this call? I'm like, you got a fan. And it was like literally off of just me watching that one match. I'm like, he's so entertaining that it's like I gravitated it to it because he was so like entertaining. I was like, this is pretty cool. And I don't like never like I've heard of him, but never watched any of his matches before then. So it was really cool to see in person. And then I'm like, okay, you're like super dope online too. It's one thing to be cool in the ring, but you gotta at least be a decent person. Hopefully you're decent, people are decent. So it was just really cool that I was able to at least got that part from him. Like, okay, you're good on in the ring, but you're also pretty decent. And you're not like questionable side-eye looking. Right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's hard because like this isn't just a wrestling issue. This is an entertainment social media issue. Is that like I could post a certain kind of way, but then how I am like after or outside the ring or outside of social media could be completely different. And
Yeah.
that's fair because everybody deserves their privacy. But the issue is that, especially in wrestling, is like people are completely different behind closed doors. That's why you'll see so many people tweet like, oh, well, I bumped into this wrestler at this time and they were kind of a jerk to me. And it's like, well, are they a jerk or did you bump into them at the wrong time, or did you kind of bring that out of them because you asked them for an autograph at 3 a.m. and they kind of just weren't in the mood for it. Like you don't know. And then there's some
Yeah.
stories that are just like, well, I heard this and that, but I don't know. I think that's just a rumor because this and that. So it's always tough. I always think that like the wrestlers and the people that I gravitate towards are people who like I feel genuine passion and energy from. I'm very big on that. And like, you're rolling the dice. You never know. But like I was like, dang, like I feel like I have like a good group of people in wrestling that I know and that I can count on to give good, genuine energy. Like and most of them are also like me, young people trying to come up and stuff like that. And people like trying to make a wave and trying to do well in wrestling out of love and passion. Not necessarily just because they need to make it by any means necessary and they're gonna stab people in the back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like no, just wanted to do it quote unquote the right way or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the right way means. But to me, I think that like just enjoying the journey and just like having fun, wrestling, making friends, creating moments, making fans happy, making people happy, and just yeah, like I mean, sure, maybe 5, 10 years from now, maybe there'll be money, millions in my future or something like that. I don't know. I don't want to say I don't care because obviously I would like to live comfortably, but I think that like especially like in this pandemic, I reflected a lot and I was like, man, like I've done some really cool things. And like 14-year-old me who didn't even know if he could be a wrestler for sure, he would be like, "Oh my gosh, man, you did all this cool stuff. You met all these cool wrestlers." And I would be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I did. I did do all these cool things. I've gotten This Is Awesome chance on the regular. I've done this, and that. I've done like really cool matchups. I've wrestled some of my heroes or people I've watched on TV. I have had people on TV tell me that I'm dope and awesome and stuff like that. Like these are stuff that I can never take for granted. And I think that that's the stuff that really makes all of this worthwhile. Not necessarily how much money you get at the end of the night, or not necessarily, long term what a company does for you. Just the moments and taking it day by day.
I love that. That's like super dope. If you could have any dream match ever, who would you wrestle and what kind of match would it be?
The first two that come to my head. I would love to wrestle Rey Mysterio before he retires because I have the feeling that his time is Dominic's gonna start doing his thing by himself, and I feel like I gotta get there to Rey, before he dips and leaves it all to his son. But if I got to wrestle Dominic, I think that would still be really cool because that's still like Rey Mysterio's son. So I don't know. If I'm going to speak more in terms of like a current generation, more of a realistic kind of dream match, the other two that pop into my head is Kenny Omega, because I think he's the best wrestler of this generation. I don't think that's a question. I don't think that's anything. I just think he is, and I think he's just that dope, that awesome. And I think if anybody watches AEW right now, we're starting to kind of see him become what we expected him to be when he first signed, and I'm having fun. I think Kenny Omega's awesome. He's an inspiration in a lot of ways because he was another guy who was doing the video game shtick and doing it well. He was a guy that was very much this guy who did his own thing in wrestling and he made it his own way. And I love that. And I kind of try to emulate that in the way that I go about things. And then the last one is one that like other people have kind of like it's a dream match for me now, but like other people have pushed this on me, and it's very obvious what I'm gonna say. Orange Cassidy, and I've heard it many times from the moment that I first put the switch in my hand. Everybody's like, "You gotta wrestle Orange Cassidy. You gotta wrestle Orange Cassidy. You gotta wrestle Orange Cassidy." So I guess I gotta wrestle Orange Cassidy. That's definitely the goal because I think like a match like that. If I could be selfish and I could put the arena as well, I would want it to be in Amazura and I would want it to be in House of Glory. I think like that would be like the perfect environment for it because that's a fan base that has seen me before I started wrestling with a switch in my hands, and I think for them to see my growth and for me to see me wrestle Orange Cassidy, it won't just be the Switch kid versus Orange Cassidy. Oh, the Switch guy versus the guy who doesn't wrestle. Oh my gosh, it'll be more so. Oh, this is this guy who we watched not know who he was. He went from this low position, from like the lowest totem pole of a wrestler on the card to this now, and this is our guy, and we got him, and we're rooting for him, not just because it's going to be an awesome match, but because we've watched him get to this point, And I think like there's something beautiful to that.
I definitely like that she's at House of Glory because I was telling people I think the reason why I liked House of Glory so much was the way the fans were. They were just so like into it, and I was like, that got me into it. Like, okay, you guys really want to see these matches, and you guys are really appreciating what the wrestlers are doing. And it's not often you get matches where it's just like that nice homey type vibe. Like we just want to see like the wrestlers like do their thing, and I think that's one of the reasons I was telling everybody like if you haven't gone to any show, go to House of Glory. Definitely like just go. That's part of the reason why I took my daughter for her first show. I was like, we're gonna start you small for like
awesome.
instead of going to like WWE is one thing, but going to that type of a show versus going to like an indie show is totally two different experiences. So I was like, I don't know if she would be able to handle that too well. So it's like we're gonna go to a show. It definitely have to be House of Glory so you could see why I was like every month or so I was like here like with my group of friends and we just like having a crazy old time because it was like it's good wrestling. So that's pretty cool. That I think that would be like a really dope match you and Orange Cassidy because I can like see it in my head right now. Like he's like really not wrestling, and then you're like, oh, let's play a game, and like so you could so many things you guys can do. So it's super cool. I definitely, but I'm like just manifest that into the world. Like we need that.
Oh no, I've been trying to manifest that for like over a year. The amount of companies that promised me that match and it never happened. Like. It's okay. That was another thing about 2020 is like I was kind of just like, oh, but I'm hopeful it'll happen. I'm sure it'll happen at some point. I don't like to be too sure of things, but I'm just like I don't know, like the way that things are going. Like I feel like it'll happen at some point. I feel like it's too obvious of a thing for it to not happen.
So my last question for you, if you got somebody who wanted to wrestle and didn't know where to start or what to do to begin, what advice would you give somebody who's just coming into the wrestling world? What would your advice be to that person?
I would say do your research, do your homework. I think a lot of people, and I'm not saying this in a negative way because I think all of us as fans or whatever of wrestling think this sometimes. Oh man, like I'd love to cut a promo and I'd love to do this and that and maybe I could do this better or whatever. And that's not a bad thought. But to me, it's like, well, you have to do your homework and you have to do research. Like before I started training, I there was a tweet that William Regal put out, and he said, if you want to be a wrestler, this is what you need to do. There was like an old match he wanted you to watch. He said that you not everybody's going to look just like a freak athlete. Not everyone is going to be a freak athlete, but you have to be in shape at the very least. I'm a firm believer of like body positivity, and like any body, like any physical body can be in wrestling, but you have to be in shape. Like you just have to be in good health. You have to be in good shape for whatever your body is. And it only helps if you look in good shape as well. So I will also say that. So to me, it's like you have to be dedicated to the craft. You have to like you do have to diet well. You do have to be ready for it, and you have to be ready for the mental aspects of it. Wrestling is a lot of it is a lot of no's. A lot of it is a lot of like hard criticisms. A lot of it is looking in the mirror and giving yourself those criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a mental toughness to really do it. And I think that you have to be aware of these things. You have to be ready for it. I think watching interviews, doing podcasts, picking wrestlers' brain, and seeing like what elements of behind the scenes you have to go through, and just knowing what you're signing up for. Because I think a lot of people sign up for it thinking it's just going to be physically exhausting and it's going to be physically grueling. And it's like, no, I think the mental's worse. I think the mental toll of, I want to be a great wrestler and I'm not there yet, that could be overwhelming. And a lot of people can't get past that stage. There's a lot of wrestlers like who wrestle on the independents who get overwhelmed by that still sometimes. Like for a very long time, still got overwhelmed by those things up until super recently. So I think that it's really tough. And I think that just knowing and being ready, having a support system, doing your homework, finding the right place to train, because a school could be a good wrestling school, but I think it's the same thing as college. Like it might not be the right place for you.
Yeah.
That trainer might not be the right trainer for you. That place might not be the right place for you. So doing your research, finding somewhere you're comfortable, and obviously still having it be a reputable school and stuff like that. I think that that's super important. And then also remembering that you love this, that you're passionate about this, and if you really are, then like it's not work. Like I used my first 2 years training at House of Glory. They had beginner class was Tuesdays and Thursdays, and for my first 2 years, I never missed a Tuesday and a Thursday. I was there every single Tuesday and every single Thursday for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
straight. And not because I felt like a pressure to do so, not because anybody forced me to, not because somebody told me I'd get on shows faster that way. I did it because I had fun and I enjoyed it. And I was just like, no, this is fun. And I also happened to have the free time. So I get it, like that was just my life. And at the time, that's kind of how I was afforded my life or whatever. But I think like, having a mentality like that where like you're like, no, I'll go to training anytime I can, just so that I can learn and just so that I
Mm-hmm.
can have fun. Because to me, even being around a wrestling ring makes me happy. And I would like to think that anybody who's as passionate about wrestling as me feels the same way.
That's really good advice. I definitely do agree that if you're gonna put that much energy into something, then at least hopefully be passionate about it. Otherwise, why put so much energy in? I mean, I just feel like, as you said, that if it's something you love, it won't necessarily feel like a job. It feel like just like, oh, this is something I do with my life, but it's not like, oh, I gotta do this tomorrow. Like, oh, I gotta go to do this match tomorrow. Like, it's not like that type of vibe if it's something you actually really enjoy. So I definitely like that advice.
Yeah, my favorite thing. I think my favorite thing was once Edge said. Edge said this. He said, "You can't pay me to wrestle. You can pay me to leave my family. You can pay me to go on the road for 300 days out of a year. You can pay me to be injured, to have surgeries, but you can never pay me to wrestle because I don't work. Like that. Wrestling is not my job. Everything else is my job. All the other challenges of wrestling and stuff is like, and I feel the same way. Like I have those feelings with the traveling because I don't love sitting in a car for hours. I don't love catching a flight like that. So to me, I'm like, okay, all right. But once I get into the arena and stuff, I'm good. I'm like, yeah, like I don't care. I'm good. Let's get rocking and rolling.
Definitely, really, really good advice. Is there anything you want to promote to anybody?
uh, yes. So oh wait, let's see. Check out Pizza Party Wrestling on IWTV. Really cool, really, and they're going to be releasing some stuff. They just released Bout for Clout '99, which I am also in, and I jumped off a truck, so you should watch that. It's also set in the '90s, and it's a lot of fun. Also, check out my pro wrestling tees at I believe it's prowrestlingtees.com/buy Big Game Leroy. and you can buy all sorts of great Big Game Leroy t-shirts. I wish I was wearing one now, but I am wearing a different shirt. So you got to check them out. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Big Game Leroy. You can add me on Facebook. I'm Leroy Green. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Leroy Green on Facebook, but I don't know. Maybe there's others. I'm sure there's another Leroy Green line there somewhere. I don't have a Tumblr anymore. That's all I really got for social media. I'm pretty whack like that. But my thing is, please keep watching wrestling. If please keep supporting. If you've been supporting me, like thank you for that, and tell your friends. You know, like let's let them know about this stupid guy who wrestles with video games in the ring.
I will have all the links to his social media, to Pro Wrestling Tees, in the description box. So please follow, subscribe, check everything out, support, because he's super dope. And thank you so much, Leroy, for hanging out with me today. I'm so grateful that you wanted to interview with
No
me.
problem. I had a good time.
Okay, guys, until next time, I will catch you guys later. Bye.